Welcome, friends, concerned residents. Welcome to today's rally. Sefton Residents Association, part of the National Residents Association, and the rally for today is about the site which is proposed for a data centre just here, Bridle Road in Bootle. The aim of today's rally is to raise awareness amongst the local residents about the risks and impacts and the things that they can do to push back against this proposal. This proposal is in the planning stage at the moment, and we have every opportunity to push back and work back against the infrastructure that's been placed upon us as part of a surveillance society. Some background to National Residents Association. It was formed in 2022 by a group of concerned residents from around the UK. The aim was to create a national group which can protect our national and local communities. New members are always welcome from anywhere in the UK, and more associations that join, the more influence that we have. The National Residents Association is an umbrella organisation helping local groups to organise themselves. Note that the National Sefton Residents Association does not represent any matters based on gender, ethnicity or political affiliation. The matters discussed are for civic engagement, and it's encouraged that you do your own research on any matters raised. The political system is no longer functioning to serve us. Who's pulling central government strings? Well, we know it's a globalist agenda. Local councils aren't serving central government. And the local councils are not serving you, the community. They are enablers for the globalist class. The left and right paradigm no longer exists. Across Sefton, residents are being hit from all sides. Council tax has again risen, up nearly 5%, but essential services like bin collection, road repairs and street cleaning are still being cut. We're paying more and getting less. At the same time, the cost of living is out of control. Fuel prices are rising, energy bills are high, and food bank use is at record levels. Many families are struggling to afford the basics. And what is Sefton Council prioritising? Millions spent on net zero schemes without public consultation, over 26 million on retrofit grants, 36 million on zero carbon school, and millions more on LED street lights. But where's the cost benefits analysis? Where's the public's vote? Meanwhile, we face a housing crisis. Serco, acting on behalf of the Home Office, has been using private houses in our communities to house asylum seekers without public consultation, without any formal contract with Sefton Council. In some cases, long-standing tenants have been evicted on Section 21 to make way for this. The council says it has no contract with Serco, but where's the accountability for safeguarding residents? It isn't about party politics, it's about common sense, fairness and transparency. It's important to bear in mind the bigger picture. Our communities are being damaged by top-down central government policies that are negatively affecting all of us. Local councils are being used as useful idiots that are there to enable us. Increased surveillance in a digital world where your privacy is not an option. Installation of infrastructure, 5G and associated health risks, infrastructure to power a technocratic world where the end game is social control, and refusal from local council to engage and accept accountability for allowing it to happen. Control of agriculture and food supply chains globally. Anti-agriculture policies are dismantling our food supply. The UK government implements punitive inheritance tax changes to strip farmers of the land and the farms they farm for us. So what's the solutions? First step is to understand what is happening is part of a much bigger control agenda. I'll carry on. Is part of a much bigger global agenda. We need to take back our power. I firmly believe that the solutions lie within our own communities, where we are from, where we form our own alliances and connect with one another again. The current state is a result of a carefully coordinated erosion of our social culture. We're in a war with our own government, and that is acting in treason against the people. It's not a war in the conventional sense of the word. The battlefield is a war of information that's given to us. The government engages us in doublespeak, where the actual intent is completely the opposite. We must see this for what it is. Censorship is being used, and the kosh as a kosh of the truth. Politically weaponised slurs such as far right and conspiracy, we must resist and see it for what it is, a tool to undermine those who stand up for our communities. Friends, concerned residents, we're all here today for the same reason. We know about the site which is proposed, and which is one of 100 sites UK-wide, the data centres that are planned for this country, the power behind the digital infrastructure which is going in place around the country, taking away our privacy and freedom forever. Once it's gone, we never get it back. So at all costs, we must push back in every way that we possibly can. Sefton Residents Association is acting as the signpost for our communities to assist you to push back. To assist you in pushing back against the agenda that affects us all.
That was working then.
So we have a number of guest speakers today. The next speaker I'm going to introduce you to is Steve Hatton. He's come all the way from Manchester. So over to you, Steve.
Thank you very much. There we go.
Thanks very much to Stephen, and thank you for everyone who's organised this today. It's brilliant that you're active in Liverpool and talking about these issues. I'm not here to talk particularly about this data centre individually, although I know it brings dangers to local society and to your energy grid and to your water supply, but I'll let other people talk about that. What I want to talk about is the jigsaw, the chaotic jigsaw, the millions of pieces of jigsaw that still lie in the box that people can't understand. I want to show them the picture on the box of the jigsaw and what it's going to look like in the future. This data center is a pivotal part. There are 6 elements to a digital future which come together to create a world which none of us can ever afford to leave our children to live in. But first of all, I'm going to surprise you, if this microphone will work. I want to thank Mr. Keir Starmer, because Keir Starmer has given the British population the greatest chance in human history to change this world for the better. Inadvertently, albeit, but he doesn't know the opportunity that he has given us to unite behind one single cause, and that is the digital identity. I want to cover 3 things. I want to show you a vision of what his world will look like and his global partners. I want to show you how and who are putting this world together for us. And I want you to go away and research everything I say. Do not believe anything I say, but I will give you specific people who will tell you more detail and truth than I can. And thirdly, and most importantly, I want to give you solutions. We have the power to change this and to have a perfect world where nature and technology work in perfect synchronicity for human happiness and for the planet, in truth and in love. We have the opportunity to spread that across the entire world, and it starts with digital identity. But first, in the spirit of the great John Lennon, I want you to imagine. It's 5 years from now and we're standing here at this data centre in Bootle because we're not happy with what's been done to our local community. But it's a cold, calculated digital world, a cashless world. And each and every one of us knows that by standing here, we've already been identified on facial recognition cameras. The government and the police know exactly who is here, where we live, they know our names, they know everything about us. They know how we got here. Our journeys were digitally tracked because there is no cash to pay for them. On the buses and on the trains, they know when we clicked on and when we clicked off. They know exactly when we left our homes this morning. You okay? They know exactly when we left. 1, 2. They know exactly when we left home this morning. They know how many times we flushed our toilet because of their smart technology. And they know that at least 2 of you are carbon criminals. You've already been fined this morning. You left your heating on when you left. And you've already been fined as a digital criminal, a carbon criminal who's exceeded his carbon footprint. We may laugh, but this world is being built. As we stand here in 2030, in the future, we know that every single email that we send, every single contact on our phone, every conversation we have, everything, hello, 1, 2, everything we say and everything we do is tracked and traced.
Let's see.
Hello? Yeah, that's working. Everything is tracked and traced. 2 years before, in 2028, I first experienced being locked out of a supermarket at the front door. I wasn't allowed in because I was outside my lockdown zone by 1.2 kilometers. I had to return home so that my central bank digital currency wallet could be switched back on. The government will not let me spend money outside my lockdown zone. One of us tried to buy a nice tasty Greg's pasty on the way here. Payment rejected. You need to get back to your 5 a day. You've exceeded your carbohydrate limit. We may laugh. And of course, here we are in 2025, and none of this has happened, and none of this can happen, really, at the moment. But we won't be laughing long. The UK government has an extremely close partnership with China on commerce and on digital technology. And China is the biggest technocracy in this world. It is the blueprint for the world that I've just described. Much of what I've just described is already active and absolutely possible in China. Wuhan province is completely covered with super fast 5G internet to make it possible. That infrastructure is built around 6 things: digital identity, the magnet that pulls everything that there is to know about you into one single place so the government can analyze it, scrutinize it, and profile you and decide what you're allowed to buy, where you're allowed to travel, and maybe what you're allowed to say, and maybe whether you're allowed to be free. Artificial intelligence, supercomputers, to drive the analysis of this data so that they know everything about you in real time, to make immediate decisions through your digital wallet about what you may and may not do. Your mobile phone. By 2030, in that scenario, your mobile phone has to be carried with you because you cannot get on a train or bus without it. It knows everything about you. And our children are selling their soul to their to their phone, their smartphone. Everything about them, their data, their conversations, their video is filming them as they're getting changed in their bedrooms. Their cameras work all the time. Whose hands will this data end up with? Central bank digital currency, been in development since about 2018. The UK government and the Bank of England already have it ready to go. The development has been done in 150 countries around the world. This is not about our country. This is a global technocracy, a global government. So who is doing this? Who is putting this together and building these data centers as digital prisons, which will restrict the lives of every single child who's born? It's been put together by an organization that all your life you've been told they're the good guys, the white hats, the United Nations. They started with the money of the richest man that ever lived, J.D. Rockefeller, for commercial interests, under the guise of their one job. They had one job: world peace, no more wars. That's their one job. Well, look at the state of them. How many of their countries who are members of the United Nations are currently at war with each other, killing each other's citizens? Russia, Ukraine, I could list them all day. How many more? The United Nations has failed in its one task, but its real task is hidden behind closed doors. Its real task is the United Nations Agenda 21, which has been followed by the Agenda 2030, which is the blueprint for the world that I have just described to you. And it's dressed up in the usual clever language of politicians. 17 sustainable development goals. They sound beautiful. Take goal number 2, end world hunger. Well, wouldn't that be lovely? Well, first of all, I'd argue about that, because there's lots of people in our country who aren't hungry, but they're malnutritioned. They're eating junk from supermarkets and takeaways. They're getting no nutrition whatsoever, but they're not hungry because their bellies are full, they're getting fat and they're unhealthy. This is the sickening world that we live in. But their view of solving world hunger lies with their partners in crime, the World Economic Forum. They have a memorandum of understanding with the World Economic Forum. And these are the richest billionaires who meet at Davos on their private jets telling you you shouldn't drive your car, you shouldn't put your kettle on because of your carbon limit. These people are driving a global agenda on food which is disgusting and dangerous for the health of humanity and the future of humanity. They want cows not to be walking in fields. They want fields. They want our beautiful countryside and meadows filled with solar panels. They don't want cows. They don't want real meat. They don't want real food. He wants real meat, that little dog boy out there. He thought he was going to bite me then. So their idea of solving world hunger is genetically modified food. Illegal in this country in 2019, legalized under the confusion and chaos of COVID, without any media even telling you about it. You're buying genetically modified food in your supermarkets now and you don't even know. They're developing insects and bugs in massive farming units to sell to us for nutrition. Stopped working again, sorry.
I have to just shout up. It is.
Is it working? It's working again. Okay. So, that's their idea of nutrition and synthetic meat. Lab-grown, lab-developed meat instead of real meat that gives us the most nutrition, that's helped humanity develop its intelligence and its strength and become the species that we are. And they want you to stop eating meat while they fly around on private jets and eat the best meat and organic meat themselves. We know this from Prince Charles. I don't call him king. Prince Charles eats organic meat. He wants you to eat lab-grown meat. If he's still alive, well, I don't know about that. But what I do know that he's lectured our country on these things. And he is the worst criminal. He talks about your use of carbon dioxide and carbon dioxide emissions while he's flying on a helicopter, the least efficient method of transport known to man. So, United Nations, they are our enemy, make no mistake. And they expose, and this data center exposes their carbon hypocrisy. Because as they fly on their private jets to these meetings to tell you how to live and to stop using carbon dioxide, stop emitting anything, stop eating red meat, stop driving, stop traveling, stop flying. As they do all of that, they're building data centers which will use biblical quantities of energy and water, which will drain the resources of local communities to the point where they're actually having to consider bringing small modular nuclear reactors into populated areas to power these data centers all around the world. And to give you one piece of data that I saw this week. Hello? One piece of data I saw on this week. We've all heard of Silicon Valley in the United States, the digital valley where Google and Facebook control our lives and our information. Well, they've now got Data Center Alley, and it's in Washington State, in Washington DC. And what this place with digital data centers, I believe, uses the same energy as the nation of Denmark. If that is true, it gives you a vision of just how much a lie the whole carbon dioxide myth is. Because they would never sign this away. They would never agree to this use of energy or waste of energy that we don't need. Every single person supporting net zero would be standing behind me today saying, do not open that data center. But unfortunately, through no fault of their own, they are misled, and carbon dioxide does not cause global warming. We've got people like William Happer. Hello? William Happer, the former... Hello? So William Happer, former advisor to 3 American presidents. He says carbon dioxide does not cause significant global warming and cannot. You've got Dr. John Clauser, 2022 Nobel Prize winner for physics. In his words, man-made global warming is a crock of crap. His words, not mine. We've been lied to consistently because they know that we can be manipulated through our emotions because we want a cleaner world for our kids. And so when they tell us that the problem is carbon dioxide, we all believed it for a while, but the world is waking up. And this data center and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals prove the hypocrisy. They expose the lie barely. Keir Starmer has threatened us. Keir Starmer has threatened us and every one of our... Sorry. Keir Starmer has threatened us and every one of our children that if we don't have his digital identity, it won't be a criminal offence, but we will not be allowed to work. No matter how hard your children work through school days, at the end of it, they will have no job, no way of supporting themselves, and they will live like the savages in Brave New World. But thank you, Keir, because you've exposed your lack of power, because the people will not stand for this. And they are starting to learn the law, and the law is very clear. At the start of every parliamentary session and council meeting, they say prayers. When you go to court, you swear on a Bible. This is for a reason, because in law, God is at the top. And they know it, and they say it, and they believe it, whether you do or not. That God created man, man created corporations. Corporations are things like Tesco and like the government. They are a corporation, they serve us, they are below us in the hierarchy. Tesco can create any policy they want and inflict it upon you if you are in their store or liaising with them online. If you don't, they have no power over you whatsoever. Likewise, the government. Go to peacekeepers online. They will show you. They will be able to show you your rights. So don't take too many risks with the law, but know that it is on your side. We are governed by consent. And without our consent as people, the government cannot tell us to do anything. They can recommend it, they can disguise it, they can give us fear, they can tell us it's mandatory. But mandatory is a legalese word, and it does not mean you have to do it. They cannot force you to do anything because you are above them and they rule you only by consent. We need to learn the most easy word in the UK English dictionary, no. We have to say no. We want the public to support these people here today in Bootle, to say no by objecting to this data centre for the reasons that will be covered in the next speech. You need to learn, you need to share information, you need to see the truth. Millions of people around the world have been waking up since the dark days of COVID. We know we've been lied to on a massive biblical scale. Free news is out there. You don't have to pay for free news. You've got to pay for the Daily Mail, but free news like the UK column, they've been doing this for years to help people understand what's happening in their world. Free news from the light paper. You might not like everything you read in the light paper, but they're telling the truth and talking about things that government and BBC will not talk to you about. They're filling a gap, they're filling a void. It's free and it's physical, a newspaper for the people, by the people, distributed and funded by the people. Wake up, people. This is the direction we need to look. Learn and share this information. Question it. But 3 things I'll close on. Use cash. Bring back cash. Use it every day of your life. If somebody does not want to accept cash, you leave that shop, establishment, pub, or whatever it is, and you very politely explain to them why digital currency is so dangerous to create the world that I described at the start of this presentation. Cash is king and cash is vital for freedom. It's inconvenient. I hate using it. I'd rather use a card, but I don't, because it means far, far more than my convenience. This is about the future of my kids, their kids, and humanity. Please use cash. Next, thank you. Finally, biometrics. Do not be conned about the word Brit card. It is an optical illusion. Digital identity is global. It has been driven by Tony Blair, the man who created the wars, that created the displacement, that created the mass immigration, that Keir Starmer now uses to justify a digital identity. Blair is at the centre of this. He's creating a global technocracy, and he uses that specific word in line with his supposed role in running Gaza, of all places, after the destruction he's caused and the mayhem in the Middle East. That man is at the centre of so many things, working for the people who truly own this world. Biometrics are the real key problem. Forget about BritCard. You're already being conned into it. People who I know have already gone onto the Gov One login site, waved a mobile phone in front of their face, taking their iris scan, taking their facial recognition data, taking their fingerprints, and handing it to the government. Well, what do you think the government are going to use that data for? The digital ID. When it's launched, the people who've already done it, if they don't retract and get that data back through GDPR, they already have a digital ID. So don't take notice of the PSYOP and the news and the supposed debate in Parliament. They're not debating it, they're talking about the introduction of it. That's what the debate was about. Digital ID is coming until we say no, and we will say no. I have absolute faith that humanity will wake up in time, because Keir Starmer has given us the greatest opportunity in human history. We stand above him. He's threatened us with an ultimatum. And when the British people get an ultimatum, we're pretty decent and we stand together. The only good thing that came out of lockdown was how people helped each other on their streets, their neighbours, their communities. It brought goodness out of people, because when we're pushed, we stand together. And I'm going to say to Keir Starmer, the day, if it's him, or if it's Andy Burnham, or if it's even Nigel Farage telling us it's now's the day for digital ID, you can't work without it, I'm going to say to them, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You've just announced a perfect national holiday. Every single worker on that day should phone in sick, should not phone in sick, should phone in, and if anybody is actually there, which there won't be, to say to them, leave a message, I'm not coming in today because Keir Starmer says I can no longer work in his United Kingdom, which is a corporation, of course. And I'm going to stay at home. And we're going to look after ourselves, because doctors will be in our villages and towns. They'll be able to help us. We'll have stored food. We'll plan for this war. If he wants war with us, we'll plan for it. We'll have our food stocks and the country will stop. And for once, it'll be Keir Starmer and the political class feeling fear, not us. The ball will be in their court, and it'll be down to them. Do you want our country to stay at a standstill, or will you be embarrassed around the world? When that fear actually gets into their minds, they'll realise they have no power. It will be like the Wizard of Oz. There is nothing behind the curtain whatsoever. These people have no power, no authority other than what we give to them. So I say, Keir Starmer, thank you for giving us this opportunity. The British people will change this world. They will spread this message around the world and will end tyranny for good. So I'm going to say to you, we're going to have a quiet revolution, a silent revolution, a peaceful revolution, an intelligent revolution. We're going to have a very, very British revolution. It's going to be, more importantly than anything, a lawful revolution. We will take back our power from these tyrants around the world, and they will no longer represent the billionaires. They will represent normal people who are standing here today. And when that happens, the world will change and democracy will re-emerge, and we will have a civilization where nature and technology work for humans and not for the rich elite. Thank you for listening. Stay free.
Well done, Steve. Very well said. Made so many good points there. And the solutions, I've always firmly believed that the solutions will come from our communities. We're led by our communities, and we need to take that power back. It's in our hands. It's there for the taking, people. And that's where this all starts. That's where the revolution begins, because no one's going to hand it to us. So it's up to us to take that power back. But on that note, I'm going to hand over to the next speaker we've got here today, Paul Carden. Paul's come from the Wirral Residents Association. Paul's going to take a turn to address the rally here today.
Very nice. I hope this white mic works for me. I'm a bit shorter than the last two speakers, but can you hear me? Great. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you, Stephen. Thanks a lot, Stephen. Yeah, I've come all the way from Wirral today, so that's over the River Mersey. It's not, I say all the way, it's not that far. My house is about 2 miles from here, as the crow flies, so it's not a long journey. Anyway, I've come back to a place here today that I know very well, because in Bridle Road itself, I started working here in the electricity industry. This is back in 1984, so it's 41 years ago now. I worked in the Manweb electricity depot just down the road here, and not far from that depot there's quite a few large buildings that are going to be knocked down to make way for this data center. And this data center itself is huge. It's massive. It's 485,000 square feet. Now, can you imagine that? It sounds like a big number to everybody. Let's give people an idea of actually how big that is. If you divide the size of a football pitch into that number, you come to 7 football pitches. Imagine 7 football pitches next to each other. And that's how big this place is. It's actually 7 times the size of the new Everton Stadium that's just been built. That's what's going to be appearing just here, just down the road. Now, having worked in the electricity industry, as I said, this place is going to have to demand a massive amount of electricity. We're talking about 38 megawatts. They're going to have to build a huge substation, likely to be a 33,000 volt substation. That's what's called a 33 kV substation in the trade, and it's going to need a supply cable that is a 33 kV feed. Now they're going to have to connect that to the nearest 33 kV cable in the vicinity. I don't actually know how, I haven't researched enough yet, but it could be 1,000 yards away or 1,000 meters away, say. That itself is going to cost between £1 million and £2 million. because the 33 kV cable is actually this thick. That's got the cores inside it, the phase cores inside it, then it's got armour around it and it's got insulation around it. These things are huge and they're very heavy, and that will have to be laid to this place. And I've read up the newspaper reports and everything, and nobody's talking about that. They're not talking about the extra costs that are going to come into this at all. They're just not mentioned. So this site is just under 10 acres. And it's got 38 emergency generators. And how are they going to run? They're going to run on diesel fuel. And look at the reputation that diesel fuel has been given by these people themselves. It's frowned upon. But they're prepared, as the last speaker said, they are prepared to do this. They're prepared to use their own nightmare scenario, but they'll use it for themselves. And they frown upon us using it, you know, in our cars and in our vans. Now, specifically on this data center, they're going to be using quantum computers. I don't know if anybody knows much about quantum computers, but they're very advanced technology. There's very few people like you and me who own quantum computers. They're owned by, you know, the authorities that we're supposed to look up to, the so-called powers that shouldn't be. They own them, and they're putting these quantum computers, which have got huge memory capacity, into these data centers. They're going to need them. And they're going to be running at absolute zero temperature, which, if I remember from school, is about minus 272 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. Now that temperature is something that's never been achieved in nature. If you go to the absolute extremes of the North Pole or the South Pole, nobody has ever reached absolute zero. But these quantum computers need to get to that, because the kind of equipment that's going to be in these data centers is trying to run hot, because that's what happens, that's just physics. But they've got to be cooled down. And they're cooled down by a hell of a lot of water that's going to be needed. And now I've seen stories about millions of gallons of water needed for these data centers. One of the stories I read said 300 million gallons of water per year. Now, I'm not sure if that is right. The jury's out on that. And this data center, the designers of it are talking about a closed loop water system which uses the same purified water again and again in a closed system. Now, I don't necessarily believe that can be kept pure all the time. I think that they're going to need to top it up regularly. And whether that's millions of gallons, I don't know. So the jury's really out. It could be thousands of gallons. But if it is 300 million gallons of water, that's the equivalent to 8,300 semi-detached houses. So that's a huge amount that's going to be put upon the local water supply. Now, moving on to the electricity that this data center is going to demand. Because there's 38 megawatts, that's the equivalent demand of 38,000 semi-detached houses, which is just huge. Imagine a builder of houses coming along and saying he wants to build 38,000 semi-detached houses. They'd be just off into the horizon, you know. That's just a huge amount of houses to build. But that's the kind of electricity demand that this is going to place upon the local power supply. So we're talking about an absolutely massive demand. Now the government itself, this is the UK government, are looking to build 100 of these data centres this year alone. That's 100 of these places. Now multiply everything I've just said by 100. Put a couple of noughts on the end of every figure I've just given you, and it's just going to be like stratospheric. It's up there. And now, as Stephen, the last speaker, said, the carbon footprint of that, I don't necessarily believe in this CO2 or carbon footprint, but by their own stated figures, the carbon footprint of all the data centres in the UK, it's just going to go through the roof. It's just like Prince Charles flying his helicopter, as the last speaker said. It's like him flying around in his helicopter while we're all riding around on push bikes. It's the same thing. The absolute hypocrisy of it just stinks to high heaven. Anyway, who here supports digital ID? Who here is against digital ID? That's good to see. I'm against it as well. These data centres are going to be full with your biometric data. That's why they're doing it. Your biometric data, as Stephen before us said, it's going to be volunteered by you as you go online and put your fingerprints in, or show your profile to a camera, you know, and they record it. I don't think anyone attending here today is going to be doing that, are you? No. Good. That's good to hear. I'm not going to be doing it. Or they're going to take it from existing medical records. And they're going to know who is vaccinated with mRNA vaccines. They'll know that anyway. That'll be in your medical records. I don't mean you. I mean, it's going to be in the public's medical records, whether they've been vaccinated or not. And it'll be held here in this place. The people of Liverpool, the people who've been vaccinated, it'll be known. All that'll be known. And all this data centre will be linked. I've just walked up here this morning and seen a huge, ugly, horrific 5G mast just on Bridle Road down there. It had about 8 antennas on it, and I'm not joking, it must be about 50 metres tall. I'm not joking, it's huge. Yeah, and talking about 5G masts currently being installed, I did a few calculations last night. And since 2019, we've installed a total of 32,000 5G masts. So starting in 2019, we installed 1,500. 2020, does everybody remember that? While we were all locked down, that was like the go-ahead for the telecoms industry to get out there. They took loads of people on, and they started installing 5G masts everywhere, because they were thinking, when digital ID comes in and data centres come in, we've got to link them all together. What's going to be linking all the data centres together? The 5G masts. That's what's going to be doing it. That's why we need to fight against that. Yeah, and the digital ID, it's like a stepping stone to the central bank digital currency. I'm not sure many members of the public have heard about the central bank digital currency. I'm sure a lot of you people here have heard about it because you'll be researching it. But a lot of people will not realise that cash is under threat. They just take it, they take it as for granted that it's going to be here forever. And they're sort of accepting, some of them are accepting that it might disappear one day, not realizing that once it does disappear, what is going to replace it is going to take away all our rights, take away all our freedom, and it's going to introduce something called geofencing, which basically is the government will have the ability to stop you spending money in certain areas. So if you travel a mile away or 2 miles away, they'll be able to clamp down and make sure that you don't spend any money too far away from your house. They'll even put a shelf life on your central bank money, so that if you're paid a pension, say it's £1,000 1 month, it may run out the next month and disappear. And you may end up giving into all this one day. That's why we've got to fight against it. It will end up as complete control over us. And one day we could end up like China. I was watching a video about a couple of weeks ago, and it was based in the city of Nanking, which China is a country with 1.41 million people, and it's growing. And they've got cities that are occupied by millions of people. One of them is Nanking, and it's got 8 million people. And it's basically voluntarily signed itself across to a social credit system and to digital ID. And this social credit system, everyone has to sign up to it. You don't get a choice. You've got to do it. And excuse me, I was looking at some of the people being interviewed in this video, and there's young people there, and they're saying, well, I'm all for this because a society has got to have rules, hasn't it? So they're basically, young people don't even realise that they have any freedom. They're just signing up to it thinking, oh, better do this because we've got to have control, we've got to have rules, not realising that it's going to take away everything they've got in the end. It's going to be like 1984. It's going to be like Brave New World. All those threats are going to be just like that. And watching this video, there were so-called good citizens there. Out of 8 million people, they've actually got a very low total of ideal citizens. These are people who are very happy to sign up to it. They've got no problem with it because they're getting little tokens of gratitude. They're getting like free cinema tickets. They're getting stuff like that, you know. Or they're getting free parking spaces and whatever. And they're thinking, wow, I'm getting all that. That's brilliant. You bastards aren't getting it. I'm getting it. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where you've got people, they're on like scores of 0. And if you end up down there, your face appears on massive billboards, massive digital screens. Your face is up there, and the Chinese governments are putting your address up there. Your address and your face. This mic isn't working. Hello. Your face, your name, and your address is appearing on big billboards, and these people who are good citizens are looking up there thinking, haha, I'm not going to be one of them, am I? And it's just going to end up like, it may not feel like it now, but it's a slow creeping system. You know, the totalitarian tiptoe, as David Icke puts it, it's going to end up like that. And we're going to all end up there one day. Does anyone here want that? That's good to hear. And I'm going to finish on that point. Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, thanks very much, Paul. Really appreciate the points you made there. And what's really important for everyone to understand is the impact on local infrastructure. When we look at the figures behind this proposed site, 28 megawatts of power the site will consume. The impact of that is 1 megawatt equals 1,000 domestic properties. So in that case, we do the numbers, 28,000 megawatts of power. So 28 megawatts of power is 28,000 homes. Where will that power come from? It needs to be displaced from somewhere. That's the risk to these properties and these residents in this area. I don't know about you, I've had a leaflet regarding power cuts. Since when has power cuts been a thing from the national grid? They clearly post that information for a reason, and it's not by accident. So we know what's going on here. We have to be mindful and be very aware. On that note, I'm going to hand over to one of our other guest speakers today, and just pause for a moment, and we'll carry on after that.
Let's say no to these 100 data centres they want to build. Nearly 3 million homes will be affected. Say no to these criminals. Keir Starley, Lammy, Reeves, Cooper, the rest of them. Keep your freedom, pay cash. Cash is freedom. In Wuhan, China, there's 100 million cameras. You track and trace 24/7. That's what they want for all around the world. That's what the digital ID is about, control. Full government control. So let's keep it cash and keep your freedom. Say no to these criminals in the system. They don't work for you. They work for the corporations. These are treasonous, homicidal maniacs. You've got to say no. Say no to these 100 data centres, nearly 3 million homes will be affected. Let's say no to these criminals. Starling, Burnham, Cooper, Reeves, Johnson, Sunak. These are all criminals.